Hi everyone, we need to get plugged in for a second, so I do the entertainment, I guess, in the meantime.
Everybody brings his own computer.
What do I do? Well, okay, I'll start. So.
Yeah, start. Just wait a second.
Yeah, you get to start.
Yeah,
So that's already interesting. That's how we work together. And that's exactly the reason why we are using note cards, because otherwise this could turn into a fist fight, which would be more interesting for you. But
okay, merci beaucoup. Okay, we are excited to be here. It's actually pretty cool in San Francisco anyway. And we thank Sophie, Charlotte, and Joe for inviting us. The theme of this event is growth, and being a little bit of a rebel still at age 71, with a lot of discussion, is it growth, is it change, what does it mean? So we agreed to growing slow. And today many companies are forced to grow really fast to become so-called unicorns, and the rest of the companies are called cockroaches. So frog is neither a cockroach or a unicorn, but a frog. And so sometimes we grew fast, we grew slow, sometimes we went backward. But I think overall, looking at the last 40 plus years, it has been a great success, at least we believe.
so like I already said, Hartmut and I, despite having worked together for over 30 years, never made it on the same stage. So this is exciting for us. So we want to share with you, so we did pick up on the theme of growth. We don't want to be that rebellious. So we want to talk a little bit about how we have grown Frog as one of the biggest and I would say best design companies in the world. How we have grown or brought design to help our customers grow. And then at our age, hopefully there was also a little bit of personal growth. So I'm Patricia. When I left Frog, I became an angel investor. I've invested in about 30 startups since then. Back then, I called it the dark side, going from design to the money world. I thought that's really, embracing evil. But I have to say, I learned so much, and as a designer or product manager, I encourage you to sometimes look over the fence a little bit, and not only hang out with your peers. So I learned a lot from the money people. And because life can sometimes be a little bit boring, I just started another company again called Widlet. And Widlet is in design research. And the reason
Thank you.
I picked design research, if I would be at Frog today, this is the area I would pick. So the theme you will see throughout this presentation is that we always change things in our design process. And design research is my current passion because I do believe that it's still done in a very elitist way, where researchers go out, they interview consumers, they then come back and interpret what these consumers have said. And so with Widlet, what I want to do is democratize that process a little bit by people themselves recording their experiences, and that brands or product managers then can review and tag and consume that content themselves. I'm not working against researchers, I'm just trying to bring mobile technology to the research space.
So I'm Hartmut. Okay, it's well known, actually Frog is kind of misleading, it should be Patricia and husband. But I still do, I still love to design, and I consult with friends around the globe, South Africa, Asia, Europe, and here. And I also design some little stuff like this handmade Soa watch in Germany, actually 3D printed plus handmade. And since parallel to our career in Frog, I always engaged in teaching. So first, I co-founded a university in Germany, first digital university, by the way, in the world. Then I was teaching 6 years in Vienna, the University of Applied Arts, even as I believe design should not be taught at art schools. Design should be taught at design schools. And then also, since 4 years, I have the honor to start a new university in China. It's not the most exciting place to go to China and teach design, but I think the reason I did it and do it, and love to do it, the Chinese government puts real money there compared to here and Europe. So we got a fantastic scouting system. We choose normally 9 people out of more than 1,000. We got a multi-million-dollar model shop. We'll talk about later why that is important. And the whole idea also, we teach, we have politicians coming in, managers, other design teachers in China. So it's a really nice effort. And if you look where value is, I think people looking down in China are asking me, why do you work for the enemy? I think on this earth there should be no enemies, with half of the world anyway being in a war. So it's also, I think, a message of our American-Chinese friendship we have to build from inside out. Here's a wearable concept. The students among you probably have done the same thing around the world. The big difference is that in China is also the market for that. It's a couple 100 million young people wanting creative, good, cool design, and not copies brought in by Western designers copying each other from America and Europe. So one of my cool students, Shen Chen, he is saying it this way: we want to design what our factories really can do, not what foreign designers think our factories only can do. So that gives an idea of the provocative approach they take, and when you have the chance to study in China, do it.
Okay, now that we talked a little bit what we are doing today, we want to go back a little bit and tell you a little bit more about our experiences at Frog. Does that sound good so far? Yeah? All right. So let's start. Hartmut, bring it on. Team. So the most important thing about, I think, a design company is always the team. This picture represents the culture we always wanted to build. So this is the original Frog team in the US.
Actually, covering the hard work.
Okay, so that's the team we always wanted to build, or the culture we wanted to build, with really some of the best people. Maybe some big egos, but still a focus on team, a focus on quality, but also a focus on fun. So teamwork is really, in our mind, the most important thing there is in a company.
And also the business relevance. I mean, we built, actually, speaking of growth, over a sequence of Frog's career, we built multi-billion-dollar business. One at Apple, Sony, that went from here to really huge. And they did not do it just on stupid business methods like low discount and stuff, but on quality design. So
early on, we coined the statement strategic design. You hear it now everywhere, right? But back then, what it meant for us to bring together the soft skills of anthropology with the hard skills of business, and you see that as a theme throughout the presentation, respecting our resources, technology, and also the shape and semantics and aesthetics. So bringing all these things together was always at the core of our business.
When we speak about branding, so naturally a lot of faulty stories about Frog. So the brand originally comes actually from the Black Forest, Germany. A lot of frogs live there. And they're protected by street signs when they go from the creek up to the hill to mate, whatever you call it, and coming back. And then the little frogs later coming down, the polywogs. So people actually, clients thought we had invented the street sign, but that's why we started the logo.
So branding was always big for us, right? As a small company out of Germany, we claimed that Frog stood for Federal Republic of Germany. So we always invested a lot in brand. Some people would even say we were a little bit too loud at times and a little bit too big for our trousers, but we believe that that's important too, that you tell people what you do and why you do it. So always big on brand.
And actually, that was way before Google. So we are used to get copied. In Japan, they say copy is a compliment. Other people think copy is stealing. Both is true. But I think we failed on the printing cost a bit, but we had actually the logo for quite some time. It's also about provocation. A brand should provoke positive or whatever emotions. And before you try to agree to 100 people agree with you, I rather have only 5 people agree with us, because they will be committed. You can never have 100% market coverage. But anyway, so today lots of logos come out. For me as a designer, most of them are horribly ugly. And you know what I mean. the world is ugly. And we're a bit like medical doctors. So they live off with sick people, and we live off with sick companies.
So I'm not sure if you can see what the purpose of this image is, but it's a paper ad with one of the early Apple computers, the Apple IIc. That was one of the first computers being on the cover of Time magazine. And so paper ads are no longer that interesting, right? Nowadays we can all Photoshop together an ad and put it on Facebook. But this was in 1970s when a small design company bought all the Backpage ads of all the design magazines pretty much around the world. In the US it was ID magazine, in Germany it was 4 magazine. And we did this because we wanted to bring pride to our work. We wanted to bring pride to our customers, pride to our peers. But most importantly, we also wanted to inspire a lot of young people to go into design. Design wasn't as promoted as it is today. And so even today, we still get letters from people that say that they chose design as a career because of these Backpage ads. So very proud of that.
Actually, see, we wanted to build a global brand. And in order to achieve that, we decided to hire the best photographers we could get. So that's an image by Dietmar Hennecker. He was more famous for photographing Porsche and Mercedes cars. Also somehow a friend of mine. And the system was not that we told them, we have a design, show everything we did. No, we just gave it to them and said, do what you want. So here is kind of a hi-fi freak room, nothing in except for music. Then we also had the honor to work with Hartmut Newton, pretty famous for photographing beautiful women and men, and not always dressed. So he did kind of the scene. You can actually, here's a story. He said, it's about story. This is German immigrant via Shanghai, came to America. So we always left the provocative way. A lot of photographers came back because they were pretty badly briefed by the advertising customers. Actually, it's a bit overdone here. It's a bit too loud. Anyway. Okay, so we have hundreds of these kind of images, and actually we even think about doing an exhibition on it because it's an art to, except for Leibowitz, we got them all.
Well, and so this is a motorcycle from the 80s. This was not something commissioned by a customer. I know I have a motorcycle fan here. We talked earlier about bikes. So what we did here is whenever we got upset with a space, we would just do some concept work and then promote the hell out of it. So we wouldn't make any money for this work at all. But if you remember, if you have been around in the 1980s, motorcycles were really ugly. And so we wanted to design a bike together with Yamaha that brought a little bit emotionality, a little bit softer shapes, safety, all these things to the bike industry. So we just did this concept work, like I said, promoted it. And if you look at motorcycles in the 80s, they all look a little bit that way. So even though we personally didn't make any money, we were always proud when we could shape an industry. And our customers, customers sometimes come in an interesting way. Like I said, Yamaha did not become a customer, but Honda did, and others did, because they liked the kind of thinking where we took a space and we imagined what it could be like in the future.
Actually, Patricia is good in motorcycles. Our first date, she came with a Honda. And my motorcycle career was very short because my dad decided to bring the bike back after 10 minutes. So I rather got a car. But here's the Disney project, the cruise line actually came out of Yamaha. They saw the motorcycle, said, you have to do a ship for us. And the idea on Disney Cruise Line was...
So that was not a concept. That was a real thing,
That's
right?
a real... We made a lot of money on it, still do, whatever. It's not 4 ships, it's a huge fleet, it's a huge concept. And the idea was simple, to put the theme park onto the ocean. And also make it for families, not for drugs and alcohol and gambling, charge honest price. And interesting here for you, as for the designers among you, there are 2 funnels. The front funnel has no feature, but coming to research, all the children wanted 2 funnels. This one funnel is stupid. The 4 funnels didn't work because of Titanic. Nobody wants 4 tunnels anymore. And 3 was too expensive. So the front funnels are cafes, all the way up above the ocean. Huge success. The $50 million extra, they were happy to invest. So that also shows you design, growth for business also requires investment. It's a secret, not a secret, but from nothing comes nothing. So you have to invest. Anyway.
All right, a couple more jumps back in time. So,
okay.
Like so many great companies, Frog also started in a garage. And this dapper man in the middle is actually Hartmut. I think you'll all agree he looks better today.
Yeah, still the mustache thing.
Yeah, but the point of this picture is, so even though we started in a garage, and in all honesty, I'm not that old. I was not there at that time. I'm a lot younger. So I only know the stories, but I think the principle kind of carried through throughout Frog even today was, let's invest in good equipment. Let's invest in great machinery, even though we are in a small garage. So models were built in the bathtub, things were mixed in the bathtub, so we used the whole house and always great machinery. So
yeah, actually, in the 60s and 70s, design was not in a high demand. And I was still a student, had the luck to win the first highest German Design Award. And then I pushed myself into this company called Vega and told them, you have to change the world, there's innovation, new production methods, and stuff like that. And after some convincing, they gave me the job, and also I paid my dues. It meant to work around the clock, do models from wood, so work with the technicians, work with the tool makers, supply chain, because the company just made before everything from wood, and as everybody did. And also had the appendix taken out 2 weeks before the trade show. I made it on time. And the big piece today is maybe forgotten because all the technology has disappeared, maybe except for the speakers and the hi-fi. The design all around was really emotional. So it was not an object you put in a closet and stuff like that. It also was a huge business success. The company grew from about 1,000% in 5 years, which is, by today's standards, still a lot. And it was a family company later, come back to that, where they went. And so the next step was that during my studies, I always had written letters to Sony that they have good technology but bad design, and actually I could do that because my contract allowed it. And so as luck happens, they offered me a job to work with them, and that's what they had to show for. There was back then one of the most beautiful TVs outside of Vega, I think. And so it was good technology, but it didn't look really good. And so this whole idea about made in Japan also should express a Japanese culture of simplicity, elegance, and timeless endurance. So as luck as I had it, they also acquired Vega then in 1974. So I had 2 clients, Sony Global and Vega, for the elitist niche, as I called it. Still $1 billion back then.
So, and I did want to talk a little bit about the Walkman. I'm sure most of you carry around music with you today, right? When you walk through the streets of San Francisco or wherever. This was the time before. So this was the time when companies did not believe that people would carry music with them. They believed that people would only listen to music at home, or maybe in their car. And so Akio Morita, who was the CEO at Sony at the time, really did ride the subway in Tokyo just to get a sense of how they could best design a product that people would carry with them. And that goes a little bit back to the design research, going out there, observing people in what they do and how they do it, and then coming up with really great ideas to solve their problems.
So it got some attention, but only later. So
that brought us to the US. So the work for Sony actually did get the attention of no other than Mr. Steve Jobs, and that brought us then to the US.
But for 10 years, we tried in vain.
So for 10 years, yeah, as Hartmut says, so this is the Consumer Electronics Show. It used to be in Chicago at the time and not in Las Vegas. And even though design was really big in the US in the 50s, if you look back, great products were designed in this country. But by 1970s, it had become a complete wasteland of design. I mean, everything was just junk. And you see even the consumer electronics show is very uninspiring. And more importantly, a lot of the brands we wanted to work for at the time, like Magnavox, Zenith, Fisher, are probably all names you all have never heard in your lives. So they all have disappeared.
So when we finally got the attention by Steve Jobs, we succeeded to meet him. And Sony's success really helped because it actually erased the TV industry in America. Nobody wanted this dowdy, shitty thing with wood and brass and this whole inoperable user interface. So he called on Frog to join a competition for a global design initiative. And actually we took the opportunity to grow again. From Germany to Japan to California made sense the other way around. And we duplicated our German office here in Campbell, California. And then we started to work. We created the now legendary Snowbite design DNA for Apple, which is still, I think, part of the DNA code. And but we are not content back then in 1982, long ago. Some of you were not even born then, to just look for the next 4 or 5 years. What we really wanted to do is look ahead and project what technology in the future could provide for people to have a better experience and how they would be encapsulated into Apple's design products. So this is like Apple looked in 1982, the only successful product they had. And then we projected how would a Macintosh look 10 years ahead in 1992. Then we projected how a Macintosh would look ahead 20 years ahead in 2002. So by no accident, it took a bit longer until the iPhone and the iPad came out, but that's about it. On the way, we also reduced production costs of the physical designs by about 90%, because at the time we started with Apple, it was still kind of a startup mode, way too expensive supply chain. People charged for the nose what Apple wanted. And the detailed story is in the book. So,
he's plugging his book right now.
You can have it. So it's also Business Week, Wall Street Journal's design business book of the year. It's not a design book, it's a business book. Still recommended to designers. But Patricia has another book.
Yeah, so I'm actually more excited about this book than Hartmut's book. I mean, of course, we're happy if you buy it, but okay. I wanted to bring this for show and tell, but we are moving right now, so I didn't have it physically. So what this is Steve Jobs' 1983, was it 83, 84? 92. Definition of... 82. 82, did I say 92? 82 definition of what he wanted Apple to stand for and how he wanted to design products. When you hold it, it's really fascinating because it's so naive, unbelievably naive. I mean, it has salaries in there and org charts, but also lots of inspirational quotes about how he wanted Apple to be a world-class company. I mean, he was very young back then, right? He just had started the company. And what's important about this? In my mind, what was important and why I still think this is so valuable is that he put a stake in the ground. He said, this is what I want to be, this is what I want to do. And what's very interesting is that this book is a little bit about creativity, but most of it is about process and collaboration. So if you are a designer today, I think take note from this, that it is a little bit about who we collaborate with and how we define what we want to do. So I really loved this book. Now, we also wanted to tell anyone here from HP? Good.
There should be.
So we also wanted to give you the opposite story. We worked for HP under Carly Fiorina, and this is not a political statement at all. But they at the time, so when was that? That was like early 90s. They wanted to own the consumer, the connected home space is what they called it. And they had it all, right? They had the legacy. They were actually the leader in many of the products that shaped that experience. They had the cameras, they had the printers, they had the PCs. But what they did not have, the glue and the process that brought it all together. People were working against each other. We actually, for us, this was great because we did the same project for each one of their groups and made a ton of money. But we all know what happened to HP. So,
actually, the famous quote, now public so we can publish it. Actually, Apple did not allow to use the Red Book for whatever reason, legal lawyers. But it said, I want our design not just to be the best in the personal computer industry, but be the best in the world. And I think back then nobody except myself believed that it could be done. Mm-hmm. We only had 2 supporters in Apple, the rest was against us. It also shows leadership is really irreplaceable. And what you also should try as designers, I think most of you are, you must be a leader. And don't get all those excuses. I want my cafe latte around the corner, or my client is stupid. We have to define our own fate.
So I think the common theme is also always about like Frog evolving and Frog changing. So in the early 90s, we jumped what we now call cyberspace, but back then we actually called it new media. Does anyone still remember that term when we called things new media? Well, so this is not so much about us adding new services to Frog. It was really about completely changing the organization, right? I mean, this stuff always looks easy when you look backwards. So imagine us walking into the office one day and telling people like, you know what? Whatever we are doing today, we are not doing tomorrow. We are changing everything. And when we did that at Frog, everybody thought, all right, they're doing this again, they're a little bit crazy. In fact, we lost a lot of people that didn't want to come along. We then went to Austin, Texas. Yes, Texas, I know. Anyone from Austin? There was some clapping, no? I mean, now a great place, but back then it was a pretty sleepy town. We acquired a company that worked on CD-ROMs. We all don't know CD-ROMs anymore, right? And we said, we are now a digital company. So with that attitude and little skill, we went to Hasso Plattner at SAP, even back then one of the biggest ERP companies in the world, and we said we want to design your user interface. And we're actually very successful at it, I think, right? Yeah. I would say it was probably one of the very first recognized software UI projects that people pointed to and said, wow, they're bringing design to a space that's so ugly. And for us, the result or the success was so easy. Like people, we measured actually, so we talk about analytics later, they could really measure that people could input data twice as fast, they could absorb information, I don't know, like 90% faster.
No, it so, was 40% faster and 30% less mistakes.
Yeah.
Which is a lot.
You're better at numbers than I am, I guess.
Actually, I was living this for a couple of years.
All right.
Actually, speaking of today, everything is UX and blah, 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 and the internet is full of visual trash. But Microsoft Windows is also pretty tired by today's standard. But anyway, Bill Gates had hired the UI team from Apple to do Windows 1. And then I went up there and said, why don't you make a better copy of the Mac OS and do real design? So we got fired twice, rehired each time. And at least we succeeded in getting some three-dimensionality into Windows and using the power of the computer to have a more inclusive experience for the user. And some people even ordered the players, so finally Microsoft is also in the hardware business because they have to. But it, again, as Patricia said, it was a huge departure from Frog, just doing products instead of holistic conversions. Conversions means digital, physical, whatever happens has to happen together. So it was a great success. Ultimately, Frog is more known for digital, less for product. And I want to come, for a good reason, I want to come back to product. So the whole idea of process, as Patricia mentioned, and it's really one of the key issues that Frog turned also into good business because I was spending too freely on many things. Don't tell about what. So this is actually the development process. So when you hear design thinking, please also think design making. Bring it to market, not just an aspirin to get a headache away, but to live healthy, to live holistic. So it's pretty complex. You create files, you document, you have a dialogue, you collaborate, and in the end you will have a product. Use the dropout things, also the drop squares means release and done, and sometimes you have to go back. So this we took as an inspiration to create a software 15 years ago. Not the best time. Even a little snack shop was valued at $1 billion in the internet age, putting out pretty whatever. And what we looked for, the main cause why design doesn't make it to the market in the quality it should be, is that the departments, marketing, finance, material, engineering, do not work together really. So marketing wants something, engineering says we can do this, finance says we only have so much money, and the same information, money, exists in 3 different pieces, at least, and each time is different. So the idea here is that we put the data blocks in. There's only one budget in the company, there's only one schedule in the company, there's only one bill of materials in the company. And whenever you change something, only the owner can change it. Only engineers can change the technology. Only marketing can change the feature set. Only finance can approve or disapprove the money. So whenever somebody wants to change, finance says no, they have to discuss it. The user interface was pretty cool. Okay, that's 15 years ago. So each owner of a certain thing, like consumer relationship, logistics, marketing, and so on, CEO, had their own segment of the software and could see the whole thing. I spare you the whole other documentation, that's just the final database. So this is how complicated product development really is. And that's why so many products are so shitty, because people don't want to get into this to make it really right, like Apple does, like other people do. So they just do it again, like somebody else. And you see also here, the concept is that up there is a normal data flow, and here are the owners of the different business sections, and the data blocks are shared across the entire business. So we didn't succeed to make it a Frog software company, but we succeeded in other ways. We jumped to China.
So when Hartmut actually says we didn't exceed, I still sometimes have to sit down when I think about these days, because we wasted $6 million at the time. So this was around 2000, which for a company like us was a lot of money. But I think what we also learned, every time when we fail, there's still something good coming out of it. And in this case, the whole process thinking, even though the software didn't make it, the whole process thinking was now throughout the company. And we also understood what it took our clients to develop software. So it really made us incredibly fit at the time when the dot-com bust happened. Right, so around 2000, 2002, we also went through some layoffs, but the company internally was incredibly fit and ready to then take on new challenges, which actually led us to being a big stake of Frog then got acquired by Flextronics, one of the biggest manufacturing giant in the world. And again, it was a jump for us. A lot of people said, why would a design company, collaborate with manufacturing? Manufacturing is a low margin, big scale business, and design is a big margin, small scale business. But Hartmut and I thought that the factories are really more like our playground. Right now we have factories we can go to and really learn from. And Frog actually became incredibly successful in the 2 years we were part of Flextronics. Ultimately, we left Flextronics and sold the company to private equity because Flextronics customers were getting so scared what we could do for a manufacturer that they actually threatened Flextronics not to work with them. So sometimes you experience headwinds that you cannot foresee early, but it definitely brought us back to China and started Hartmut's passion of working with manufacturing and with students in China.
So also, like we said in the beginning, I'm working with design students in China and with the goal to make them into chief design officers, not just design servants, and also educate them at the source where the industry is. So this actually was one thing I tried in Frog always when we are still active, to take our designers to the production places and understand. For example, Flextronics had a robot who could put a pixel onto a cell phone as a decoration, but all the robot was asked to do by companies like Nokia and Motorola was just to paint it all black. And the robot could do any pattern. So we really want, but I think that's important, that China goes from copying the West in itself to become a creative center of the industrial world. No?
And like I said, I'm very passionate about design research. The hotel room really stands for, I mean, you all read reviews on TripAdvisor, right? Where you read about one hotel and one person says, oh, it was really clean, and the other person says, oh, it was really dirty. So what I'm going after is really making us all understand what clean or dirty means for people and really translate those feelings like easy, hard, into real experiences. And I want to show you a little video for that.
Research had its roots in surveys, first used in Roman times, and focus groups developed in the 50s. Isn't it time we move forward? Today we know that observation is critical to understanding consumers. Everyone has a smartphone and shares details about their lives. Meet Vidlet, created by the former leaders of Frog Design. By using smartphone video, Vidlet connects brands directly to consumers through real-world observations, anywhere, anytime. With Vidlet, you simply develop scripted questions that users answer with short selfie videos. In minutes, you get real observations from all over the world. On the secure Vidlet portal, organization, analysis, and reporting are all there for you in one place. An easy experience and the latest technologies developed in Silicon Valley. Vidlet, mobile consumer insights.
So,
on that note,
so 1, 2, 3. Keep growing. And be leaders, not followers. Thank you.